Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We have a special guest on the line right now. Tyressa, Ty, welcome. Or just Ty, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you, Ty?
Baby, I'm breathing, so you know I'm blessed and super excited to be here.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, I know you have a bachelor's in mass communication. You also suffer from dyslexia and ADHD. How did that impact you in school?
For me, I always tell people I was most likely not to succeed. So it's still shocking for me. During my younger years, and I always felt like I wasn't enough, okay? I was always the bad kid, the kid that couldn't sit down, not just in school, but at home. I always felt different, but I didn't know why exactly, what was going on with me because I wasn't diagnosed. And it was later when I found out that I probably was a little tad bit smarter than the other kids because I actually made it through school suffering from dyslexia and ADHD. I never give, I'm a person that believes in education, but I never give education credit for the success that God has allowed me to have because I always felt like it was my personality, my passion, and my drive, but it was very, very challenging. More now, I can realize more now how challenging it was. In my younger years, going to school, elementary, junior high, high school, not quite getting it and just really struggling through school and not knowing why, what was wrong with me. Even at one time, one of my teachers tried to put me in special ed because they thought I was slow. And so it's just, to even have a book right now, it still amazes me when I think about all the turmoil and the challenges I went through in my younger years.
When did you start journaling? I want to talk about that and how that's helped you.
I started journaling really when I was a kid. I didn't really understand that I was journaling, but I had a diary. And I just started writing. And writing helped me release. I can remember like being 7 and 8 years old, like writing stuff and drawing pictures and kind of, that was my way of releasing what I felt because I felt like nobody understood me and nobody heard me. And again, when you're a kid, when your mom, holler or scream at you or a teacher says something to you and deep down inside that's not your intention or that's not how you felt, you can only retaliate so much. So for me, it was a form of me sharing my story of what me saying as a kid, like, I didn't do that. This is what really happened. And I would write down my side of the story, even though I knew nobody could hear it. And I found myself as an adult, going through my adult life, going through college, going through just life as a whole, relationships, friendships, writing down my side because I always felt that no one understood me. So journaling has always been a part of my life. I just didn't name it that. I think, back then, it was just kind of like me releasing my anger, if you will.
Did you ever get to a point where you felt like people really understood you? And what was that point?
I still don't feel like people understand me.
That's good, but you're not here to blend in. You're born to stand out, so they're not supposed to understand you. Most people don't understand themselves. How they gonna understand?
But you know what? That's what I love so much about you guys because y'all radical. And I'm gonna, be quite honest when, Shook One is like Charlamagne, just like shout out to you because you kept it so real. But when I started reading it and I'm hearing Scarface and him talking about his song was really talking about his life, I'm like, damn, that's me. Like, and the fact that, you are so transparent, you don't even understand how you help everyday people realize that, hell, we may be crazy, if you will, but it's a whole community of us. But we didn't really know it. We, you know, all of my life, I just was like, I'm the rejected stone. I'm the sheep of the family, the black sheep of the family. And I just, you know, for a long time, I would cry about things because I was so different. And now I'm able to embrace it. And it's people like you that help everyday people, not just because it's a lot of celebrities deal with this now, but I'm talking about everyday people who don't have money, you know, like Scarface was talking about the money kind of help, and you can't choose the people they want to be around that suffer from this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I know you battled with suicide. So how have you stayed encouraged during this quarantine?
I'm sorry, what you say?
I said I know you battled with suicide. So how have you stayed encouraged during this quarantine?
It's been very difficult for me because so I'm from Louisiana, and I decided after losing everything for the second time in a flood 3 years ago, I was having so many challenges. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna move to Atlanta. I've been wanting to move, and I feel like God, you know, sometimes God have to remove things and put us in a situation where we're thrust to go somewhere else. So I decided to go to Atlanta, and so out of all my life, I've always been around plenty of family in Louisiana. Even though I traveled a lot with my job, I found myself in Atlanta in a 1-bedroom apartment with no balcony, no porch, no nothing, by myself. And I'm gonna tell you, the devil was on me hard. He was riding me really hard because I started feeling like I was being closed in. It's been very challenging because, like most people, you got a lot of time, and we all know that the idle mind is the devil's workshop. So here I am bringing up challenges as a kid, you know, kind of like what you talked about, you know, kind of in your book. You know, I was the dark girl growing up, right? So I mean, even people don't realize how when you see an adult, you're seeing a reflection of a kid, and the behaviors that you see and the way they respond and the way they act and a lot of the insecurities that they have derived from when they were 5 or 6 years old on a playground.
That's right.
Right? So, you know, I'm sitting here and I gotta check myself. Like, I gotta say, whoa, get yourself together, because I'm sitting here and to be quite honest, it's a lot of things that happen that I have every right to sometimes feel a certain way about. Just things that happened to me as a child that I felt like I should have been protected from. But I was sitting there and I started to feel some type of way about reflecting on the things that happened to me as a child that I knew that was not fair to me. You know, and that's when I decided, I said, you know what, in the beginning it started because I'm accustomed to jumping on planes and being, you know, on stage and flying here with this artist and flying there with that artist. And I always stay so busy. I think a lot of times we choose to stay busy, which is not a bad thing, but it stops us from dealing with a lot of things that we need to deal with, you know, just straight in. But that's just our coping mechanism, if you will. And that's when I decided, I said, you know what, I'm going to give myself a project. I had been working on the self-care journal, but I didn't have time. And so now I had time. So I started trying to put everything together because I said to myself, if I'm feeling like this, it's a million other people that's it's gonna hit hard when they gotta stay maybe in a relationship that they, you know, would run from and stay out late, or 4 or 5 kids around the house, or just, you know, and with men, I'm so passionate about men because, like, with women, we call our friends as just as jacked up as us, but they comfort us, right? Instead of going to therapy. Mm-hmm. And so here we get another form of being dysfunctional, but at least we're able to kind of release. So I'm saying this is my time to not only help myself become better and having a tool, if you will, a gateway to write down those feelings and deal with them, but also provide something for other people who, even if they decide to go to therapy, something they can bring home and have an accountability piece to remind them of not just who they were, but who they can be.
Now let me ask you a question. Do you still have suicidal thoughts? Did that still come to your head, or is that something that you got out and you're free with that? You do things to take your mind off of it?
You know what, to be honest, this is gonna kind of sound crazy, but I think when you when you've had trauma as a child, or you suffer with disability, I mean, when you suffer with a certain disability like ADHD, things of that nature, I think it's like when when people say when you've been on crack cocaine, and this is like a crazy example, right? But just an analogy of it. When people say like that you've been on crack cocaine, you always have that desire to kind of go back and see, you know, what happened, or if, you know, the desire just is like a craving. In an ironic way, when you dealt with suicide or anxiety and depression, in my mind, and again, this is just me, it's always in the back of your head. It's something that you continue to fight. You know, I feel like I'm a very confident person. And like Charlamagne talked about, I feel like I was fearless. You know, I got this personality, this energy. I don't know if you feel it through this phone. And I'm on Central Standard Time right now, but been up since 5 o'clock, slept about 3 hours. But I feel like, you know, I got this personality that's just ready for whatever. But then when it's that downtime and when I'm all alone, you know, there's that little girl, Ty, who sometimes feel like she's not good enough. And no matter how much I accomplish, it's like I'm constantly feeling I need to accomplish more to keep my mind stable, you know, and that's what I talk about. My book is called Matters of the Mind, because the mind, so a man thinketh, so is he. And if I get caught up too much, I start thinking about the person that's not good enough. You know, the person that's full of fear of failing, fear of being what people used to tell me what I would be at 9, 10, 14, 16. And so in the back of my mind, I'm always battling, you know, not running off the road, or not doing this or not doing that, or you know, as you get older, you start to recognize that spirit, if you will. And I'm a very prayerful person, right? So I'm always recognizing that spirit of, hey, here it comes. Get it together. Put on some TD Jakes, put on your pastor, put on some John Gray, because I swear to God, they saved my life.
Right. No, you know, I had 2 friends commit suicide in June. So what would you say to someone who may be considering suicide right now?
To recognize that spirit. Don't pretend it's not there. You know, I feel a lot of times that we are in denial. And so that's the biggest problem, to discover what it is, to call it what it is, and seek help, professional help. Professional help. I believe that in our culture, for so long, we've been taught to pray again, or talk to a friend that's a dysfunctional friend that's not going to put us in a better place. I would tell them to call it what it is, and say it. You know, I'm feeling suicidal. I'm feeling some kind of way, and seek help. Find things that make you happy. Find things that lift you up. Come out of that place that you're in. And again, I feel like journaling is so amazing. Writing is a healer. Even in the Bible, and I'm a very spiritual person, it talks about writing the vision and making it plain. Even if you're not in a place that you want to be. I mean, I was homeless. I lost everything that I owned, but I would write where I wanted to be. And journaling as well is so good when it comes to being like anxiety, depression, suicidal, because you can reflect back. It's like a Facebook reminder, memory. You can go back and reflect on the things that was very difficult that you overcame, and remind you that you can do it again. And not just that, it reminds you, start to read some of the good things that happened, because it's not just to capture the bad things. It's your story. It's your life story. You go back and reflect on some of the good things, and it'll lift you up. Because I don't know if you feel this way as well, but because I know you suffer from depression and anxiety as well, Charlamagne. But I've learned that there's a trigger. Like I could be feeling, I always say I'm paranoid about things. And when you talked about fear, my pastor used to always say, Bishop Johnson, fear is false evidence appearing real. Well, when you talked about it in a different form, okay, it ain't even finna happen. Like half the shit that I've sat there cried over, stressed over, did all kind of stuff over, drunk 3 bottles of wine over, never even happened. So as I'm getting educated and I'm learning, it's like a cousin that comes to the reunion. You already know what to expect with this thing. So you got to learn how to respond different to your feelings, because they're going to come. It's going to keep coming at you. You just got to learn how to respond to it differently.
That's why I say you got to face everything and run, or fear everything and rise. That's my acronyms for fear.
Yes. Yes, I love that. That was my first time hearing it that way.
About the self-care part, and as far as maintaining a balanced diet, drinking lots of water, making sure you do physical activity and working out, you talk about those things, avoiding drinking, avoiding smoking. So during this quarantine time, I know a lot of us have fallen off, some people have, of their daily routine. So how has that been for you? And tell me how life changed for you when you started practicing this self-care when it comes to nutrition.
Well, a balanced diet has helped me out a lot. One thing is when you think about, and I come from the South, so we love to eat with seafood, Cajun. We like all that good stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
And I had to
came
ship
back
out
from
some
South
gumbo.
Carolina.
Look. So for me, to be quite honest, when I started working with I ate horribly. I never had a problem with my weight per se, but I ate really bad. And when I transitioned and started working in the entertainment field with Dougie Fresh and DJ Chill Will, they didn't eat meat. So I kind of was forced into that world, kicking and screaming. Unconsciously, I didn't want to do it, but it kind of forced me there. So when this happened, I was adjusted to, just only eating the fish, the vegetables, and things of that nature. The great thing about it is there is a guilt that comes with overdoing anything except exercise, if you will. So eating right, if I don't feel good physically, when I look in the mirror, if you're dealing with depression and anxiety, and you're eating things that you don't need to eat, of course it's going to make you feel a certain way inside. But physically, you're not going to like how you look when you start to gain the weight. And that's going to be another attack at you, okay? Because if you're not feeling right physically and mentally, that's a problem. For me, I knew that there was going to be a financial strain. And I always think about these components: mentally, physically, financially, and emotionally. These are the things that make us who we are. And those are the things that the devil will attack as relates to depression and anxiety. So when I thought about all those things, I'm like, hey, I even wrote it in my journal. Hey, I got to get up every morning. I got to get up every morning, because that spirit, I don't know about you guys, but that spirit waits on me. It's like by my bedside. When I wake up, I have to hit my knees. I got to pray. I got to get my vitamins. I got to get my water. I got to walk. It's a routine for me. It's like going to work. It's a process that I have to do. And the things that I eat also makes me feel proud of myself. I feel good internally eating the right thing and just going through this process to make sure that I'm good. Now I'm gonna tell you with the wine now, baby, with the alcohol, I'm not, a heavy liquor drinker. But see, when I first started with the wine, I was eating good, but I was drinking real bad. My nerves was really bad. Okay, so I was drinking a little bit more than I normally did. I'm gonna be quite honest with you when it comes to that. I think we all had something, our vice that we were using to help us mentally transition over to what was going on.
I definitely was drinking heavy when the quarantine first started. It was a lot of tequila and a lot of comfort food. I gained 20 pounds actually.
Wow. Well, you don't look like it. You look good, but let me tell you something, baby.
I lost it.
Yeah, because you do. And so, this is the thing too. Like when I was doing my lives and stuff on Facebook, I was telling people right now, we just surviving. So if you got to drink an extra glass of wine, if you got to eat an extra piece of candy, a Snicker, a bake of cake to just get your mind right. Because see, that's what I'm so concerned about. If I got to do a little something extra that I know that's not in my routine, other than doing something, outside of hurting somebody, to keep my mind right until I can transition into this new normal, to do it. You know what I'm saying? don't go kill, you know, because I know it's a lot of husbands and wives that they didn't realize exactly how much they didn't like each other until this happened.
You know, it's interesting. Like I told you, I had 2 friends who committed suicide in June, right? And they were both totally different. You know, one, you know, rest in peace to Jazz. Like she'd been dealing with depression since she was 19. You know what I mean? And then my other boy, Shaq, he was like he was just cool, calm, collected all the time. Wouldn't think that he had any issues, any problems, always happy, everything. So what are some ways to show up and be supportive for loved ones, even if you don't see the signs of being suicidal?
That's a great question, because you don't really see it. I mean, just what you just said, you know, for me, it's either the person that's the life of the party that you just totally it goes over your head, or somebody so quiet you think they're so at peace. You know, so, you know, I always tell friends to check on your happy friends and check on your quiet friends. I had a friend that had been in their apartment and they had passed for over a week and nobody knew.
Damn.
Nobody knew, because they didn't talk a lot. They didn't, you know, you didn't talk to them a lot, but you always felt they were good. That's the most hurting feeling, to miss it. And because I'm a person that is a social butterfly, but I feel like sometimes I'm under the ground. I try to be very transparent with people, and I try to share those things. So, you know, I would tell friends that, you know, all the time, do a sanity check, you know, do accountability, have an accountability partner. Like every friend in this world, I don't care if you have no suicidal thoughts. I don't care if you ever deal with depression. You should have accountability partner. I say my journal is accountability partner because it's a workbook and it allows you to write, and it constantly asks you questions, so that you'll think and you can be real with yourself. Because you gotta be real with yourself to become happy and whole during this process, because it may never leave. But as a friend, I always tell other friends, somebody should hear from you every day. During this process, you know, I've created a family group text where we just say good morning. We may not say nothing else the rest of the day, but we may say, but everybody needs to check in and do a heart or something. We need to hear from you. I think that's a good tool to use for all people, whether you're dealing with or not, to hear from somebody. If you know somebody that's dealing with depression and anxiety, you know, and you know this as a friend, constantly check on them, lift them up, send them a card, and just find ways that, you know, if you that friend that brings them joy, that will keep their spirits lifted. Because I believe when people feel loved, and even those moments when I said, like, you know, this has been difficult for me, especially, you know, with losing everything again. I feel like I'm losing again. To, like in the book, you know, when, you know, Scarface was saying, like, I don't have the money he got, but like, I'm learning to find the people that bring me joy and make me happy. And even if it's not my sister or my brother, it could be just somebody I met in college or in my walks of life, to tell a friend that, hey, gravitate to the people that make you happy. Okay. And what, by all means, during this season that we're in, stay away from the people that pull you down.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you checking in and appreciate you for telling your story. We're so grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate you all.
And where can they get your book, Ty?
It's on www.Tyressa.com or on Amazon. You can check it out. I have my 13 journals, but I have a journal, 13 journals. I have his and her, because again, I feel like men don't talk, so they can write it. And I also have my self-care journal, which is called Matters of the Mind. That is an exercise for all people, all ages, really good for kids, because I feel like kids are dealing with things internal as well. And I have my book called Follow the Fire, which is inspired by my life story for ordinary people chasing extraordinary dreams.
All right. Well, thank you, Ty, for checking in. We appreciate it.
Ty.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I love you guys. Love y'all so much. And I just want to tell y'all, thank you so much for keeping it real, because that's the key for everyday life for people. When people are transparent, if you allow everyday people to understand and see different people's walks of life, and you ask those real hard questions, the elephants on the table that people try to avoid, but people are really dealing with that shit and they need to hear it real. And you don't even know how many lives you're saving when y'all just having everyday conversations with people.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
We appreciate you. All righty.
Thank you for having me, and God bless and be safe.
God bless you. The Breakfast Club, good morning.